Hi, and welcome to Micronaut Monday. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion. All three of those books are available by following the links in the show notes below. So here it is, issue 11 of the Micronauts, Saga's End. The name says it all. Great cover. I gotta tell you, just as an artist, probably one of the hardest things you can do is draw two centaurs fighting each other. And Michael Golden does it without breaking a sweat here. Really nice job. And just very compelling, simple composition with sort of, looks like, kind of like religious overtones to it. Really excellent work. So the last few issues have really been building to a crescendo, and so we're picking up right where we left off. This probably isn't the best first issue of the Micronauts to read. It really is paying off on everything that's come before it. Although, anybody who read this as their first Micronauts comic, feel free to talk about your experiences in the comments. Bill Mantlo and Michael Golden, writer, storytellers, artist. Al Milgram, editor-inker. Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. Joe Rosen, letters. Carl Gafford, colors. Baron Karza's command ship descending to Homeworld, to the fire pit. That's what all this flame in the background is, one of the giant fire pits of not Apocalypse, but Homeworld. Arcturus Ran is no longer asleep. They're both captured by Baron Karza. He offers some resistance, gets zapped. And, in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, you'd see a lot of these tall vertical panels, especially with Frank Miller's work, but not exclusively. And they really work for a moment like this where you're communicating, the span of verticality, where you have some characters down on the planet's surface, this wall, these towers of flame, and then the perspective really gives you this nice upshot at a spaceship descending from orbit. A force commander is taking command, putting on his helmet, Slug admiring him. They're getting ready for the big final battle for Homeworld. Baron Karza is triumphant. He's gloating. You think you've got me, but you really haven't done shit. He's, and he's displaying his power. He can just sort of hover there, and he keeps Arcturus Ran and Marionette bound in Kirby Crackle. Every panel of this issue is just such a home run. And now the Shadow Priests, again, we saw a little hint of this twinkle of light from the Shadow Priests, and they create this platform of energy that keeps Karza from descending any further. And Karza explains that, you think that you've taken over Homeworld, but this was all just a trap for you to sort of expose the depth and the breadth of your rebellion and to flush you out into the open so I can destroy you, because you guys don't have a chance against me. And Force Commander's angry about this idea that this victory wasn't something they achieved themselves, that it was something that Baron Karza allowed to happen as part of some larger devious plan. And now Baron Karza takes his Centaurian form, as it says here, and looking super cool. And again, paying off on what we know about the toys, and this is his final mode for ultimate combat. And you wonder what's the connection between him and Force Commander, because he forcibly grafted a horse's body onto Prince Argon's body as a form of like mockery and torture. But as it turns out, Baron Karza himself can turn into a centaur at will, and he can turn back and forth. And so he explains that it was a form of parody, that a way to sort of humiliate Force Commander by making a lesser version of Baron Karza's own sort of transformative powers, something like that. The battle commences. Force Commander versus Baron Karza, both in their centaur forms. Like I said, not an easy thing to draw, and it just looks great. We got Kirby crackle going like crazy. Is it hours or days they fight on a platform of ethereal energy, suspended above the molten core of the great pit? Time seems to stand still as the two titans clash again and again. And you can imagine a similar battle between Darkseid and Orion, which at this point we hadn't gotten to see. Jack Kirby will eventually draw, the big battle between Orion and Darkseid, but that's not for 6 more years. Slug is trying, as the battle's going on, Slug's trying to get a shot at Baron Karza, but she can't, and the Shadow Priest tells her that, it would have no effect on Karza anyway, so don't even bother. The Shogun Warriors ad, you see the Go Ranger vehicle in among them. Most comic book series don't get to have this kind of climax, this sort of exciting final battle that sort of settles everybody's hash. Force Commander is defeated, but the Shadow Priest explains that Prince Argon is kind of beating himself up. He merely toyed with me. Force Commander is a joke. All my power means nothing. But the Shadow Priests say, no, you played a very important role. Your challenge forced Karza to reveal the extent of his truly awesome power and bought us precious time to reveal this. Really nice sequence here as we see the anguished and suffering Arcturus Ran suddenly become very focused, very at peace, and very powerful. And in a really nice reveal, the Shadow Priests doff their robes, and we see that the Shadow Priests are actually multiple copies of Time Traveler, and that they explain that the Time Travelers are part of Arcturus Ran, that in Arcturus Ran's 1,000-year journey, he lived 1,000 lifetimes in that cryo sleep, and as he communed with the Enigma Force, became part of it, gave it a new shape, where it is him, that he's got this sort of godly aspect that is embodied in the Time Traveler. So Time Traveler all this time has been Arcturus Ran, or a version of Arcturus Ran. And there were hints, I think starting with issue 3, which maybe that's when Mantlo and Golden and possibly Milgram came up with that idea, or maybe it was there from the beginning. But that's where you start to see hints when you'd see the shadow, you'd see like a little glimmer of this kind of energy from the Shadow Priest's robes, and you'd get like a little more of a glimpse of it with every time. And so in the letters column, some people have sort of guessed at this twist, but whether you guessed it or it comes as a complete surprise, I love it. I like those kind of, structural things where there's, little twists and turns that are built in there and hints are given. We are the one and the many, man and immortal, Micronaut and time traveler. We are the Enigma Force. So now Arcturus Ran is in his full power. Really beautiful splash page here. And they fight. And Baron Karza pours it on. And Baron Karza has a lot of power. He has all the power of Homeworld. These furnaces, these fire pits, fuel him. And so he's pouring that energy onto this Arcturus Ran now in his time traveler form. And it's a lot, but he can take it. And yeah, he's really coming into his godliness. This is a really nice panel here. I'm all about this kind of stuff. This is great. Just beautiful work. We get a little bit of a preview of, or an influence for Rob Liefeld with that sort of glowing eye there. And the battle rages on as all of Homeworld watches and waits. Baron Karza's dog soldiers are, we act when the Baron orders us, dog soldier, and not before. And then the rebels are watching as well, knowing that if this battle goes the wrong way, it's over for them. A lot of great color holds in this issue. We've seen them here and there throughout the series, and now we're going to get, a panoply of them in this issue. Here it represents Karza transforming back into his non-Centaurian form. And he, with that sort of belly missile that, again, is part of the toy, blasts Arcturus Ran right in the face. All of the microverse is at stake here and is being drawn into the battle. The text, there's maybe a little bit of tension between the verbiage and the images. Arcturus Ran is still talking in this sort of stilted, godly language of the time travelers, and especially their sort of like Enigma Force version of the time travelers. But it looks to me like in this page, it's like in the visuals, it looks like this is where the battle becomes personal, and where he, even though he has the power of his time traveler aspect, he's still Arcturus Ran and still has the emotions and intensities of a man. And he's, looks very determined. And this panel here, in the verbiage, he's talking about, we represent everything you hate, Karza, the hope of Dallin Ran and Lady Sepsis for a better world, the love of Ray Coffin and his son, Steve, the nobility of Princess Mary and Prince Argon, the comradeship of Commander Ran and Biotron. We are the light you sought to banish to eternal darkness. Now, I mean, that's all well and good, but it looks to me with these, angry sort of looming heads of his parents, Dallin and Sepsis are his parents. They're the gods of Homeworld, but to him, they're just mom and dad. It looks to me like, he's sort of saying something along the lines of, this is for my mom and dad, you son of a bitch, you killed my parents and I'm going to get you, it seems like this is the point in the battle where it gets personal. And that's not reflected in the verbiage, for good or ill. It's just something I noticed here. It seems like that's the story that the visuals are telling, that we're not still in this sort of high-minded mode. Now we're in the revenge mode, and I'm out for blood. Baron Karza's got some more up his sleeve. He tells Arcturus Ran that he's going to set this fire pit to blow, and it's going to kill me, but it's going to kill you and everybody on Homeworld too, and throws his soul into this pit, and leaving his body, or leaving his armor. The armor is now empty. And in pieces, just as the toy can. You can really see how the toys influence the storytelling here, and casts himself into this pit. Again, we're seeing a lot of Star Wars parallels, but this is after Star Wars, but before Empire Strikes Back, before Return of the Jedi. And this looks a lot like the death scene of the Emperor, who is in Return of the Jedi 4 years after this. A lot of parallels there. And that similar to that sort of abyss that Luke Skywalker throws himself into in Empire Strikes Back, which will be coming out a year from now. I do wonder if maybe there was a trailer for Empire Strikes Back that showed, Luke falling into this pit. But in any case, again, taking advantage of those vertical panels that were such a part of 70s mainstream Marvel Comics. Karza's plan to destroy the planet doesn't work. No, he was struck by another force as mighty as ours when he reached the peak of his power, a force that hurled his energy persona down into the pit, where he will be consumed, sole victim of his own murderous mind shock. And they find out who it was that had the power to, cast Baron Karza into the pit. Again, all this sort of, mythic, religious imagery and ideas. The skies, look to the skies. Of course, the world mind, the Acroyers have arrived. So the Acroyers have arrived along with their world mind, and the combined force of the Acroyers' world mind and their own army is what cast Karza into the abyss at the moment of his pure destructiveness. The Acroyers have arrived, along with the surviving Micronauts, Biotron and Microtron. And Time Traveler has this to say: I am the Time Traveler, a dweller in dreams. It is said that I appear in times of gathering darkness. The darkness is past, and men again walk in the light. Thus, I am no longer needed. Farewell, Arcturus Ran. Though we may never meet again, know that you are always one with the Enigma force. The time traveler rises like a star and is gone. So Arcturus Rand sort of has this moment where he's in complete communion with the infinite. And now the need for that has passed and the time for that has passed. And so those energies leave him. And now he is, once again, a mere mortal. And again, beautiful, color holds on top of color holds here. Arcturus, Commander, I can sense your thoughts again. Biotron, Mary, is it over? Yes, my darling, Karza's destroyed, the war is over. Thanks to you. And Arcturus Rand is just emotionally overwhelmed by the whole experience. Fatigue and all that, but maybe also sort of, religious awe and being overcome with having been one with the infinite. And then what a great final panel. There will be peace at last. Just, beautiful composition, very simple, very small, but, exquisitely rendered. The empty shell of Baron Karza, and then this nice little lettering there. It reminds me of in one of the early Avengers issues where it's like where Ultron's been destroyed and a little boy is sort of playing with the pieces of Ultron, just sort of kicking his head around, and it's got the Ozymandias poem, written out in, I think, similar text. It reminds me of that. But again, beautiful ending, but the full story of the Micronauts, this is issue 11. It's a 12-part story. So there's still more story to tell. Baron Karza is vanquished, but there's still more to go. The next issue is an epilogue, and it's a wonderful epilogue and a real lesson in how to tell these sort of serialized epic stories. And you could end the series here, or you could end this story arc here, but the epilogue is just so wonderful and just gives such an interesting shape to all of this. And we are accustomed to abrupt endings in comics, but this is not your average comic, and it deserves an epilogue. It deserves a denouement. It deserves a moment for the characters to sort of reckon with what they just lived through. And there's still a couple of surprises in store. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Starr and the Solar Legion. All three of those books are available by following the links in the show notes below. I'll see you next week for Micronaut Monday.